Hello and welcome to Nintendo Voice, your voice for everything Nintendo. This is episode 139, being recorded on the 16th of May, 2018. My name is Lewis Pugh, and joining me to talk all things Nintendo, we have Harrison Milfeld.
Howdy, y'all.
And it is just myself and Harrison today. As we announced on Twitter, Colin unfortunately has some technical difficulties. I believe his computer is in the shop, as it were, being repaired. It's very, very poorly.
Yeah, I heard that, or his laptop just decided to take a bit of a sabbatical. He hates them. I don't know. Whatever the case, technology is very finicky.
Technology can be, but however, that is the world we live in. And so for this week and potentially next week, there will be no Colin. It's just me and Harrison, but the show must go on. There has been quite a bit of Nintendo news. There has definitely been some Nintendo rumors going around. And we have our usual format for now, which is what we've been playing. We do have the Nintendo news, and we have a super topic as well. So a fully packed traditional show. And I probably should also mention in the duties of housekeeping and all that, we did announce or mention 2 weeks ago on this show, there are some new format changes coming. They are still coming. They're not here yet. So as I said last time, please understand these things. It's going to take a little bit longer, but I do believe it's going to be worth the wait. But as a little tease, we are revamping the show's format where we're going to have an intro and an outro. We've got some new music, some new art. We got some fancy stuff in the work. It's going to take a little bit longer though, but it's going to be soon. And so do look forward to that.
Yes, and nobody's being changed. Nobody's being replaced. Although there was that rumor portion that I think I was going to be replaced with the cardboard cutout, knowing that some people have asked me. I do have I have less dimensions basically than a 2D cardboard, but that's just whatever. That's rumor.
Are we going to replace you with a Labo kit?
I don't know. I don't know, but is that your new house in the back, though?
Well,
that you're going to be living in?
That's the prototype.
That's the prototype house you're living.
It's not the actual size. Supposedly, it is to scale. There's going to be a gigantic switch on the front of it, which is going to be fantastic. So I'm looking forward for that being built right now. But for now, I've got that cardboard representation to remind me.
Yeah, I feel like that type of house. This is a short story, but an apartment complex I used to live in college. Very nice on the outside, but when you kind of look at it, those same usual apartment complex, like duplexes that in college, since they're built the same, really bad, we kind of joked around, me and my friends, because I lived with 700 people in these things, and we called them like paper houses because just plumbing would just break. I remember I'd be playing I think at one point I was like playing Punch Out for the Wii, or even like Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and then I'm in the living room, and then all of a sudden I just see some dripping from the ceiling. Like, what? That type of thing. Plumbing things would go wrong because it was just put together. But I guess what I'm getting at is maybe a Labo house would probably be better constructed than that.
Hopefully so. However, I just want to mention we do actually have Colin in the chat. Hanny's confirmed it is hard drive failures, which is stopping him being on the show. It's not stopping him from watching, though, is it? The technology is wondrous. Hello, Colin. I hope you're enjoying the show. And anyone else watching live? I think it's best to jump into what we've been playing. And I want to steal a little bit of focus quickly. I do have a game I want to talk about. But you mentioned about the Labo house. And I talked about me building the Labo house and me playing with it last week, but I didn't have anything to show. So I wanted to show some bits quickly. So if you're audio only, I do apologize. I'll describe these things as best I can. If you do want to check out the video, obviously it's youtube.com/Nintendo Voice. As you may or may not be seeing, there's a little Labo house over there. Cardboard house construction. And I mentioned about the little widgets you build, which I quite liked. And this is one of them. I've got 3 of them on my side here. And this one is like what they describe as the ignition or the key lock. I can't remember what it's called.
And it's like that locks the Joy-Con in place.
No, it is not the Joy-Con. Like all these go into either 3 sections of the house. There's a slot on the left, the right, and the bottom. And so this one, you notice, when you rotate it, it locks into position there, and you let go, and it snaps back out. And that's because of some magic called an elastic band, which is in there.
What type of sorcery? What type of sorcery is that?
But what is quite cool, is there's quite a few different of these reflective tapes and in different shapes. And so you can see kind of what the Joy-Con sensor would see. And how when you turn it, essentially, the pattern it sees changes. And it can do that from different angles. Like you've got two triangle ones at the bottom here.
Mm.
And so it's quite clever design, really. And these things feel quite robust. Like I'm squeezing this thing quite hard. And it's just cardboard and it's very rugged. So that's the little key ignition. I'll save the most satisfying one to last. But this one's quite cool. This is a crank. Similar sort of design. And you see that? Put that to the mic.
What a lovely crank you built.
That's not too bad. And that is just cardboard, that one with reflective tape. No rubber bands in there, but a very satisfying click still.
I'm surprised that actually sounds just like, well, that's just the cardboard just going on around each other. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just folded cardboard in there and it's just clicking around. That's all I'm doing. It's very satisfying to do. It feels like it's actually turning something even though it's loose. Again, that can slot in the house. And my favorite is the button. It's a very simple one. And this one, there's no elastic bands or anything in here. You've got more reflective tape for the sensor to see it. But this is just a big dumb button. You press it and it does that. But yeah, that is just cardboard as well. The simple things amaze me.
Oh no, the fact of like how you're able to make this out of cardboard and just how the detailed instructions to me, I'm just like, as I said many times before, like building these things, I would be interested in.
Exactly, and I'm surprised after like so many presses, the cardboard doesn't just lose its resistance, lose its bounce and its spring, as it were, because that's all it is. It's just those 4 bits of folded cardboard which is doing the pushing up and down, as far as I can remember.
Thankfully, the button that you're pushing did not shut the podcast down in some ways. No.
That's because it wasn't inserted into the house.
Oh, yes.
There's no switch to read that. So we're safe. That's one on the show for now. I've got a game to talk about, but I'll do that, because I've been rambling, after what you've been playing, Harrison. What have you been up to?
Well, I'll give you an update on the one game I did finish just recently, and that is SteamWorld Dig 2. And I really, really, really enjoyed this one. Like as a Metroidvania title, I really, really enjoyed this one a lot more than I did, especially like what I did like the previous game. To be everything just was so a little bit more polished, and it didn't feel grating as far as like the one thing I was worrying about, like when you're kind of going through type of these games, is like, how is the system of like backtracking and like warps to like, your hub and whatever, how well is that done? And it just integrated so dang well to me, where I feel like it would be almost like a chore. Like when you dig around some of these areas, and it doesn't feel like, once you get down to a point and you realize, oh, I'm full of minerals because I haven't upgraded yet, or like minerals to trade in to get a bigger bag, or I don't have this amount of light to kind of see further, like down these caverns. And there's many times in the game where I'm just like, I keep digging, and then like, oh, there's a new warp point, or even if I'm not there, it's not so much of a chore to kind of go back and go to the nearest one. So I mean, that's one thing I really greatly appreciated as I progressed on there. But colors and just areas and just the progression of things that you do, whatever, like just made me smile. To me, whatever each new ability, it's just like in any traditional Metroidvania style, is that, it's just once you get that new ability and just that aha moment of discovering of like, opening up these doors to what you do. It's just, I like having that ability. Once you get it, it's like you're able to test it out just right away. I mean, obviously in any case, it gives you the puzzles like of testing this out, and then you have that point of like, okay, I have to go back to this. I mean, again, that's the beauty, what I find of like the subgenre. And again, it is a longer game, thankfully. I did finish it in about just 7 hours, but that was not me being full on completionist on there. And one thing I really kind of wish I had more about it is that I loved the final boss fight of this. Obviously, it was a lot harder than I saw from the previous games. I just felt like I kind of wish there was maybe one more, or like not one more, but a few more in some of these areas that you had to, like, because near the game you have to shut down pieces of this doomsday machine. I was kind of hoping that there would be something like that in there, but I think that the game itself just wanted to kind of ease you, not to throw too much at you. not to say that this is a hard, not to say this is like a easy game by any means. No, no, no. I mean, for anybody who loves the subgenre of Metroidvania, this is going to be up your alley, and I feel like it's something I like a lot more than maybe even Samus Returns, but probably get the edge of that one because of bias. So no, no, and I love the even little bits that, like, even though like the story down there may not seem full like important to some, but yeah, there's some in there that kind of made me just a little sad near the end. I was like, wow. I mean, for something I didn't really pay much attention in the first game, this is wow, this is very apocalyptic. So
Yeah.
but
So
I
guess you draw the comparison obviously to the first game. So what are your feelings about it in terms of looking back? I know number two is obviously a little more fresher in your memory. Is there one which kind of stands out now? Is one you do prefer? Are they similar?
as in like what I prefer in this one as opposed to the first game.
Yeah, essentially. Like, do you know? Is it clear which game you prefer at this point? Do
I
you think about them as the same?
I prefer this one right now, only because the character I like the protagonist in this one a lot more, but I just feel like it just takes everything what they had the idea and they ups the ante a little bit more. I mean, I like I feel like their item the way you manage your items and upgrade your items, while the basis there of collecting minerals to actually get cash to do this and then have upgrade cogs to upgrade your list of abilities. That idea is still there, but it's just pushed a little bit more further. And to me, I really like that a lot more. And plus, it just looks nicer. I think that's one thing, and that's a bit of a selling point. And that it's not over in like a flash, which I feel like there's a midway point to this where I felt like I was near the end, but no, I was like, nope, you still got to do this. I'm like, okay, so there was still a bit of a lengthy bit of adventure for me. So, and I don't know, there's something about the ability of me just wanting, like, okay, I'm always attracted to finding these minerals and stuff, whether it's diamonds or diamonds or any or yes, there's unobtainium in this, and yes, that is a real thing. So I don't know. I'm always just attracted to the point. I'm like, I gotta keep getting more of these. Gotta keep more of these, and then I will just direct myself from not going further down. Just go back up, mine, or no, go back up, turn in my minerals, get some cash, go back down, do more, upgrade that more. I was in the process of just doing that, and it didn't feel like that much of a chore. I was actually having fun just going in different directions and digging, and then finding new ways to actually. And thankfully, though, when you die, it's not too punishing. As in, like, what do I say? I think in the previous game, if you did die within the caverns, within the caverns, but there are sub areas where you die, you just go to the beginning of that sub area, not the outside of the cavern. All your stuff is not littered everywhere, kind of like how the first game or even Shovel Knight did, which I actually liked how it did that, because that gave you the opportunity to actually get your stuff back and also just penalize you just a smidge. This one, it's not the case. It does penalize you, but you're penalized and you lose ore to fix yourself. And I think that was in the first one as well too. But I'm just saying, I don't think stuff's left behind for you. So you're like, oh, I gotta go back get it. But yeah, but overall, loved it, and I feel it's an essential for any Switch owner. I feel like, and especially in the eShop.
Well, that's very clear and concise verdict there at the end. I need to get back to it. I've only put a couple of hours into it. I thoroughly enjoyed my time, but just too many good Switch games. I will return though.
Now I see you've been playing a game that I have not yet played.
No, and this is a game that I didn't play the original entry of the series for, and that is South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
I'm glad you said it that way. You enunciated it correctly.
And I was deliberating before the show began. I couldn't remember if I discussed my initial thoughts of this on the podcast. And I've spoken about it to people, but things get very blurry in a podcast when it's the case.
And apologize the same way. It's just like, when you're doing this in every other day, it's like, did we talk about that already? I don't know. It's
so, yeah. If you're listening on the live chat and you've heard me talk about South Park, what I'm talking about,
give him a nudge, please.
Yeah, well, the real question is: have I made the fractured butthole joke on the show before? Probably, but that doesn't necessarily mean I've played it or I had when I was speaking those words. So, I've been playing South Park on the Switch, and if you're not aware, and I'd be surprised if that's the case when you listen to this show, fractured butthole is a strategy turn-based RPG on the Switch, obviously based on South Park. Sequel to the original game. I can't remember what that one was called now. The Stick of Truth on the 360 and the PS3. Colin on the chat here is mentioning that he's not heard me mention South Park before, so this is probably news for everybody then.
Okay. We got our fact checker of Colin there. Thank you. He probably went back to the database and found it.
Yeah,
so
he's the guy to check, really. He's the live listener who really has all angles covered. Unless someone else comes here and contradicts, which would make it interesting. But yeah, the game looks very much like the show. I'd seen footage of it before, and I was impressed, but it's not until you actually play it that you appreciate how close it looks to the actual show. And it's not, to be fair, I mean, South Park's a show that I have enjoyed, but I've not kept up with it in a long time now. I've not watched a new episode in many years now. But at least it looks like how I remembered the show looking like.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that does translate like from its art style, which obviously owes like had its beginnings of dealing with cardboard cutouts in the same way of like those old Monty Python cartoons had. And today's standards, yeah, it does translate well to a game. And I'm actually kind of shocked that they didn't attempt to port over the Stick of Truth to the Switch. I feel like that would have been a nice little thing to actually do, first and then, or even day of.
That's true, but I mean, it is a direct sequel, but it doesn't really matter from my understanding, because the game starts at the end of the first game, which you would first think, oh, then the first game would be required playing or reading, whatever the equivalent is. But it's not, because it immediately changes shift, and the main cast like change gears, whereas in the original game they're all role playing as a fantasy game, and in this game they're role playing as like a superheroes adventure. And so you don't need to know what that original story was, as far as I'm aware at this point, at least. And so I kind of understand it. They're both big games in their own right. It will be cool for it to Stick of Truth 2 come out, but I don't think it had to be part of a bundle or anything, because this game isn't too old. Like, the DLC is still current. There's that season pass from the other versions is still ongoing. And so you're immediately caught up with that stuff if you want to be. But yeah, in terms of Fractured Butthole, the combat system, it is a little bit, it is more strategic or more tactical. And so you've got a grid where you can move your characters across, and it's not usually that high. But your attacks are either, you have like horizontal, vertical, you can have diagonals and other types of ranges as well. So the placement of, where you put different members of the South Park team is important. And I do find the combat does get quite in depth quite quickly. Yet it does present it as you would expect, in a very approachable way. But I think the most important thing about this is like just how much it captures that feeling of the show. So if it's a show that you at least have liked previously, this game will probably land with you. Again, as I said, I've not watched it in many years, but just playing a few hours now of the game, a lot of the jokes are landing with me. And so I think they've been given a lot of freedom in the sense that they, in terms of references, they play back on some old stuff. They may play on some like newer stuff, which completely goes over my head. But I'm finding more often than not, like just the vibe of the game is captured really well, and it just kind of keeps a smile on my face, which is cool. But the game also has some very clever like UI stuff in a weird way. Like the whole menu thing is done through your phone, and it plays on. It does some parody stuff on like social networking and such, where there's a core mechanic of the game where you've got to take like selfies with other characters, and certain people won't let you take selfies with them unless you have so many followers. But those stuff that does link into the other stats of the game, and just the way that's presented, it all feels kind of genuine to that South Park universe. So yeah, it's a really fun game so far. I'm very impressed with it. Like, you think of like licensed games, especially nowadays, and I don't think much of them, with a few exceptions. And I think this is one of those few exceptions, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it was one I've been wanting to try out on there. I mean, I've heard great things about Stick of Truth, and as someone who actually generally likes the show, but obviously understands its comedy in today's sense of this world, has kind of been understandable to kind of look back on whether the idea of like punching up and punching down, and there are a lot of instances in the show, punches down, and this is a show I've been watching since its inception, since 2007, and yeah, there's a lot of episodes when I look back on, and especially like I look back on, I'm like, yeah, these didn't age really well, in terms of comedy. And, I'm the type of this person who likes Matt Stone and Trey Parker. I mean, I like the majority of the stuff he's done. I mean, their movie they did with South Park, the movie to me was probably one of the better cartoon musicals I've ever seen. And then I enjoyed things like the Book of Mormon. But in terms of this one, it's like Stick of Truth felt like, from people tell me, like a really good greatest hits compilation of the best bits of the show, from even for hardcore fans. And this one, it does have that same sense of like continuing on from there. It just, a lot of the jokes you're kind of looking on there like, did these hit really well or did they not? But gameplay wise, I figure that this is like even Matt Stone, Trey Parker said that the first game, and even to continue on, they owed a lot of inspiration, whether from like Paper Mario and even Earthbound, is what that's what kind of led to it. So are you seeing those vibes with it?
Yeah, I'm seeing some of those kind of inspirations, and I think the real trick is if you can like take the license away from a licensed game and it's still fun. Like you've got a real gem. And ironically, it's weird to say something like that with the name South Park attached to it. But I think that this is the case here. Like, I think the game is solid. I think it's a really good game, even without all the South Park references, which is bizarre.
But would you
get more out of it if you do like those things?
Yeah. Now you said you downloaded this digitally, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, that's for anybody who's downloading this digitally. I think we mentioned this before in the show. Yeah, be cautious with that because it's a pretty beefy game. I think it's like 18.
How beefy is it?
Isn't it like, no? Check on the, if you have your Switch. Well, it's like 18. Hang on. It's like 18 gigs, I believe. South Park.
Oh, you maybe take the Switch off the windowsill and you're gonna check it. The race is on. This is gonna be great audio listening right here.
Oh no, I'm looking right now.
I can tell you're looking.
Let us see. Nope. That is on Switch. This is interesting radio right here, guys.
It is 17.3 gigabytes.
There we go. Lewis conquered me on that one. So,
although it's not much more than Fire Emblem Warriors, which is currently 16.7. I'm not sure that's because of DLC or not. But yeah, it's a big game, and I can see why. Like, as you would expect, there's like an impressive amount of like voice acting in it.
Oh no, there's that. Yeah, you're right. There is a ton of audio in there, so that probably does explain for that.
But yeah, no, really cool game. It's weird to say, but if you're like looking for an RPG on the Switch, consider South Park Fractured But Whole. And I think that's going to cover it for what we've been playing. And it's a time now to move on to some Nintendo news. I know there's some people in particular in the chat which are getting a bit anxious about what may or may not be on our docket for Nintendo news this week. And
is that just Colin, or is that just Colin?
It's mostly Colin. He may have assumed, may have guessed, may have already seen the notes. A lack of Monster Hunter may have disturbed him. But that's not the case.
That is not the case. We will talk about Monster Hunter. We are missing our Monster Hunter connoisseur for this.
This is true. I feel we should start there, though. Gonna break the order.
Yeah, we'll break the order. I mean, we got a big nose. We'll just big news thing coming up here. So,
all right. So, it's strange. This is the episode where Colin couldn't make it, but Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate has been announced for the Switch in the West, and this is what the Japanese release was of Monster Hunter Double Cross, which obviously was the follow-up to Monster Hunter Cross in Japan and Monster Hunter Generations over here. And so this had been a while. I think pretty much everyone gave up hope. I could be wrong. I definitely gave up hope of this game coming out over here.
I was indifferent on whether it coming over here, but I didn't rule out the possibility. So
yeah, I felt there was like a window of time where I was hoping for an announcement, and that kind of passed. And I was like, oh, maybe next time. But no, we are getting it's strange to call it with a completely different name, but we are finally getting Generations Ultimate, and it's really cool. And there's a lot of buzz. I mean, I'm personally very excited because I had a lot of fun with the 3DS games, and the Switch does seem like the perfect. I know I say this a lot, and I apologize for keep repeating myself, but the Switch seems the perfect platform for Monster Hunter on the
You think
go, on the big
it?
screen.
Oh no, it is.
Combining that in a party with different people.
I think it's best though with another analog stick for something like that. Like when we the first few Monster Hunter games came to the 3DS when they had the Franken stick thing that was to the original 3DS,
Yeah.
the boat or whatever it's called. I think that's and that's the reason why with when you look at like when Monster Hunter World, I feel like that's that one benefit of like when you have like that control setup they have on there. It felt like it just opened it up way more. But now for this one, Monster Hunter Double Crosser slash Generations Ultimate. This is essentially a expanded version of Generations on the 3DS, correct?
Sorry, can you do that once more?
Oh, is this game Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate? That's essentially an expanded version of Monster Hunter Generations on the 3DS.
That's correct. Yeah. And so this was already released in Japan under the name Double Cross because their Generations was called Cross.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it gets a little confusing just because of the different names. But yeah, it's an expanded version of the game that did release over here, Monster Hunter Generations on the 3DS. And because you mentioned it, it does actually link up to Generations. So if you've got Generations on your 3DS, you can move your save file over to the Switch version, similar to how on the Wii U you could switch between the current game and it. And you can also, it's also compatible with multiplayer between those two versions.
But
I just want to say on the live chat, I think Colin's fielding all the Monster Hunter questions, so thank you, Colin. Dolly Piro on chat. Apologies for mispronunciation there. I'm still debating if I should get it or not. Is it easy to get the hang of? Unfortunately, I think the answer is no for this particular version. I've not played this revamp one, but the 3DS Monster Hunter games I wouldn't put under the category of easy, easy to get the hang of. I feel you need to kind of put a bit of homework in. Unfortunately, it's kind of the opposite. It is a great game behind it, but I think it's best to be upfront to say it's not the easiest game to get into.
Oh, it's a massive undertaking, and I can understand totally why some people are actually into it. I mean, it's not necessarily my jam, but maybe one day I'll sit down and be like, I need to see what this is all about. But it's
I think Colin needs to take the lead here. Colin needs to put on some Monster Hunter classes for both of us. I mean, I've put in a fair few hours, but there's definitely much for me still to learn. That's what I'm proposing to Colin as he's listening. You need to start organizing on that.
No. Now, for this version, this is coming out in August, correct?
It is on the 28th, I believe. Have I got that right on there? Yep. August 28th, and that's in America and Europe, same day.
Awesome. So, well, as Colin mentioned, as this news released, he said once this happened, yes, this was going to be his game of the year. So, you do you, Colin.
Yeah. You announce your game of the year before you get a chance to play it and all that. I tease, but it's true. I think we'll save the rest of the Monster talk for when Colin's back. Should we talk about a juicy rumor?
Juicy rumors, yes. Let's talk about some juicy E3 rumors.
We didn't talk about the juicy rumors on this show. If there's any rumors we're not talking about, it's because we don't deem them juicy enough. The juiciest this week.
Yeah, I mean, well, thing is, when people ask like, why don't you ever talk about many rumors going around there? It's like, well, most of the rumors that we would see in there, they get proven false and were taken to a grain of salt mostly. But when this one, for instance, it got picked up by multiple outlets, so it felt like, okay, we need to talk about this.
Exactly. In layman terms, you got to stick the fork in there, and there's got to be enough juice running out. And if there is, it's ready for the show. And this definitely fits that bill, or whatever that is, which is apparently Retro Studios is working on a Star Fox game, which is a racing game. I think that's the short of it. So there were some of these leaks or rumors, however you describe it, were around on forums for a little bit. And then Eurogamer picked up the story, and they asked this question to some of their trusted sources, and they actually backed up, saying, actually, from what we hear, that is exactly what's going on, which leads many questions. But from what we've led to believe so far, apparently this is the real deal. Retro is working on a Star Fox racing game. Apparently it's inspired by the likes of Diddy Kong Racing on the N64. And so there are going to be actual bosses as well. There's going to be an open environment between actual races. And there's going to be different vehicles as well. And so a lot of that does sound a bit like Diddy Kong Racing. Mm-hmm. So I guess there's two parts to tackle here. One, whether you think it's real or not. Mm-hmm. And two, would this be a good idea? Shall we start with, would it be a good idea? Like, would this be a fun game? And then we'll discuss whether we think it's real or not afterwards.
when I first heard about it, I was confused. And I was like, okay, this is BS. And then once Eurogamer popped it up, I was like, okay, there may be some legitimacy for this one. But to say whether I think this is a good idea, it's a bold idea, but one that I'm very interested in, because when you look at terms of the state of the Star Fox franchise, it's a bit of a rut right now. Given the dud of the reception, like financially, we saw of Zero, and the middling reviews that we saw from it was regarded from it's whether you call it gimmicky or not from its control setup, but to me, from even anybody I know, it's like it takes getting used to, but some enjoyed it. That's what I'll get to. There's a plentiful amount of people enjoyed it, but obviously it's a matter of where do you take the Star Fox franchise next? And I like the idea, but it's a matter of what could this be? I mean, but it's the fact that could Star Fox basically deliver in something that Mario Kart, I've been wishing for Mario Kart for years in terms of delivering a very good first a single player adventure experience, something we haven't seen, it seemed like, on a Nintendo platform, I feel like, since Diddy Kong Racing. So I welcome that idea. Now, in terms of there's always going to be a section of people who feel like, oh, Nintendo is wasting Retro's talent on something like this. And
sorry, that was for the live chat. I didn't mean to distract you.
Oh, did it distract you? Yeah, but
I was pointing to similarities between the drink I'm drinking and our juicy rumors.
Juicy rumors. There you go. But no, you're gonna have that segment of people who are like, oh, this is people wasting their talent. But you have to realize that this is not the same Retro that we saw from 2000 to 2002 when they were developing, Metroid Prime, and then two other the games in the series, and then of course the first Donkey Kong Country Returns. I believe that there's still many people who worked on Tropical Freeze are still there, and then there is for any studio, there's a lot of turnover in there. Michael Kelbaugh obviously being one of the few holdovers is in the higher ups, but you have to realize this is a much different Retro, and this is something that we have to deal with the fact if they're capable of doing something like this, let them do it. I mean, people have doubted them it seems like there's a cycle with them. Game gets announced, people are upset, they doubt it, they don't want it, then it gets released, rave reviews, people are accepting of it. I remember the same thing when it came to pre-Twitter, pre-social media days with Metroid Prime. There were people that were some acceptable ideas of Metroid being the third person, in the first person perspective.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think the common consensus is that, what are they doing? Why are they going to turn Metroid into a generic first-person shooter? Do they not know what is special about that series?
Exactly. I remember.
Look at how it turned out.
Oh no! It was one of the best. It was one of the best underdog stories, I feel like, in a game development, knowing what came before that, and so many projects had to be canceled just because they had to refocus on making sure this game was great. And same thing happened with a Tropical Freeze. That was announced, and people were like, oh, I don't want this now. Why are they wasting so much? And I will definitely say, I will go back and say, yes, there was a time in the show when I said if Retro's new project was another Donkey Kong game, I did, and I quote, I did say I would march down to Austin and basically demand where this is. Now that their Metroid Prime 4 has been announced, that's being supposedly developed with the inside team at Nintendo and Bandai, with the help of Bandai Namco, I don't care what they make. I just give me something that's going to blow my socks off. Sure, there's part of me I'd like to see an original IP from them, but I'm interested in this, whatever. But I've talked too much. What do you think?
All right. I think my first instinct is like this reminds me of like the Marion Rabbids Kingdom Battle
Mm-hmm.
rumors.
Agree.
Because that was also just it's a bunch of different things which just don't seem to make sense together, especially, oh yeah, it's going to be a strategy game. What? So yeah, this Star Fox racing game, I think it's a good sign. So I'm assuming everything's real at this point, that like there's surely a reason for these seemingly unconnected ideas to join together. Like you don't just make a Star Fox racing game for the sake of it, I feel. Um, like you clearly have some real cool ideas that you want to like drive forward, which you can't do with Mario Kart, which you can't do with F-Zero. It's like, oh, it has to be this Star Fox racing game. And yeah, I mean, it's got a great cast of characters for it. There's like a bunch of different options. You could have like from obviously you could have races in the sky, but also on the ground. You could have some underwater. You could even have shooting elements because the way you control Star Fox on rails at least is not far off a racing game in that sense. You are on a track in that, and so I think these things could work together, especially if they do lean towards that. Like, oh yeah, like no, we're not Mario Kart. We're like Diddy Kong Racing. We're gonna have bosses and levels and extra modes, and just a different style. And like with how big Mario Kart is, I think that's actually a really good idea. And so I'm completely on board.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel now we should transition into whether we think this is a thing. All right.
Well, before we do, if I
Okay.
may add though, it's just you whether to kind of piggyback off the idea of whether this is a good idea. Another kind of complaint is like, why didn't they just do F-Zero instead? And to me, we had to kind of look at the state of F-Zero of what it is, and I feel like other games that kind of filled that gap right now. I mean, you could say Fast RMX is kind of like filling that at this point right now. It may not be up to scale what we've seen.
Ironically so, like especially if that was like a reason for them not to do it is because there's people which have like filled in the void.
Mm-hmm. But
I'm not sure how the developers of that series would feel knowing that that might have been a potential influence.
oh no, and I could see that, and maybe this was starting at F-Zero, or maybe it's the same kind of situation where they saw, like with when Rare was developing Dinosaur Planet, and then Shigeru Miyamoto came in and said, that main character kind of looks like Fox McCloud. Let's actually change this to a Star Fox game. And Rare's like, okay. And I actually kind of enjoyed that game, even though I was very disappointed in some things. But
it was a fun game.
But when you have to look at this, I feel like Star Fox is a bit of a stronger IP. I mean, it may not be I mean, yes, you could probably look back to Zero sales, and that's probably not the case right now. But you have to kind of look at sort of like, how recognizable is F-Zero outside of the hardcore fan base for this to actually kind of work? I mean, I generally would like, if somebody said, would you like an F-Zero game? Yes, I would like one. But in terms of what means in business practices, I can understand why they're just doing F-Zero or doing Star Fox characters, because go outside of the whole bubble of like of Nintendo Twitter or even online. Aside from Captain Falcon, who else can you name for a casual person? Can you name? I mean, me, yeah, I could probably name some characters on there. F-Zero has a great cast of characters, weird and on me, but they're not as totally recognizable that when you see from a few.
They have a character called James McCloud.
Yes, they do. They actually do, and no, I just think the name carries more weight as far as F-Zero, and I think this would be able to sell well. I mean, okay, in this post Switch release world, expectations have been thrown at the what we expect has been thrown out the window. Whether like, hey, look at how ARMS sold that like close to over 1 million copies. Maybe not as strong as what we saw with Splatoon, like when that is a new IP. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as a niche, and I would say as a bad thing, as a niche JRPG series, that becomes the best-selling game in its series. So I don't think it sees it's not crazy to think like, yeah, if this is done well, it could generate a new focus of something like when it comes to racing. And plus, Retro's no stranger to racing games. They helped out with levels in Mario Kart 7.
Exactly. I don't necessarily feel like, and I can see why people would draw these lines. I don't think one necessarily means the replacement of the other. Like I could see
I
it in theory, like this game coming out 1 year and F-Zero coming out the next. Like it
I
depends
kind
what.
of disagree.
No, no, that's fair enough. But I feel there would be a core kind of fundamental idea around this. Like even if it's just like how the game feels, like what sort of content it's providing. I don't think if this game's coming out, it's a standard racer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I don't think it's necessarily replaces F-Zero. And I could be wrong. Maybe this game comes out and it is just like basically Mario Kart, but with Star Fox characters. And if that's the case, then fair. I'm more on that side. All right, but I think it's going to be something quite different, like something which F-Zero is not doing. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it's going to be the breakneck speeds, the crazy loop to loop type stuff. I reckon it's going to be more about like more open tracks, letting you kind of do a bit of exploration while you're racing and a bit of combat as well, and like playing with like fun mode types like Diddy Kong Racing did.
Mm-hmm.
But we shall see.
Oh no! And when I mentioned disagreeing on that, some would say, "Oh, it doesn't take the place of it," but I think this just shows the reliability of an IP that either Nintendo doesn't have much trust in that IP anymore, or they feel like and I have said on Twitter, it does feel like it's a dead IP now. That's just me. But and who knows what you could probably do with the racing abilities. I mean, there could be things like it could be just racing or it involves boss battles, or it could be things that like an open range type of environment. I mean, anything's possible. If it's just a kart racer, that's where I feel like I'd be disappointed in it. I'd be like, you're not doing far enough to separate yourself. So it's just I feel like something that's just F-Zero but with R wings. So
all right. So moment of truth. Do you think this is a bona fide rumor, or bona fide leak even, or is it made up?
So
is this a real game or not?
So team real or team fake?
What are we on?
God, the idea I wouldn't mind, but knowing I was burnt on that one rumor about a few years back, when they were going to give that, what was like when Retro was behind that Metroid Star Fox crossover, and that was like the beginning of the Wii U era, and I kind of I've discussed in the podcast, vehemently believed that was going to be true, and that was obviously not the case. Now, obviously, this is different with where these rumors are coming from, and plus, it is 4chan, so I don't know whether or not to believe that or not, but knowing that Eurogamer has done it, but short answer, I think Team Fake. That's just my gut. That's like I'm saying. I say that as like 50. If I had my vote for it's like 51% fake and 49% real. So
it's close though, in your opinion.
Yeah. If it was voting, it's like I'm going to stay on Team Fake for now.
All right. Well, as there's two of us, I believe it's true, and the reasons why it's not just because you said it was fake, but yeah, I mean. Eurogamer's got some decent sources, not always proven out to be true, but I feel there's been some credible cases which have turned out to be, and so I think it's one of those which it's too crazy not to be. And you get a lot of pre-E3 hype, which is really drawn onto that idea of it's too good to be true, so it has to be, but it's not really. But in this case, I'm going to go over why not, because it would be fun. And like, we've got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and it's a great game. But it is a Wii U game. Like, there's not much new content in there. So it would be good to have a new Nintendo racing game on the Switch. And so I think that this could fill that quite nicely. And I think there's a lot of stuff they could do. They could do like transformations. They got a really cool cast of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they could actually delve in and do some more in-depth online stuff, just because it is a newer online game for them. I just think it's good for Nintendo to have more than just like the one or two like set franchises that they have for a particular genre. Yeah. I think it's good every now and again for them to do another take on it and see what people's reactions are.
And I'm all gun ho for basically crazy little crossovers and in specific different genres. I'm all for that, and I don't know. I just hope this reaction does not get the same treatment. Dear God, I hope not. But when Metroid Prime Federation Force got unveiled, I mean that I felt it was unfairly, but criticized by fans, but also I feel like Nintendo did a poor job of unveiling it. I think they should have either waited or done a better way to. Yeah, they should have done a better way of doing it. But also, do you remember Star Fox Command and one of the endings that you had where I think it's like Crystal leaves the Star Fox team or just leaves Fox McCloud, and Fox and Falco decide to retire from being on the Star Fox team and become professional racers in the G0 Grand Prix?
I think you've got the naming right there. I never played Command myself, but I do know of that particular ending you're talking about, of course. And I've seen that it was unique piece of art at the end of that particular one.
Mm-hmm.
You would imagine there's got to be some reference to that in here.
So who knows? Maybe Nintendo is just trying to be like, hey, let's take those endings from Command and make them canon and make official games around them.
Every single one, unique game. This is how we're gonna handle the Star Wars property, not Star Wars, the Star Fox property now. Just with a a complete unique game for each and every ending in Command, because I believe there was a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time to move to the next piece of news. But before we do, I just need to wave this green Joy-Con into the screen, which may confuse people. But apparently, Colin thinks it's ugly. And I don't believe that's the case. I think it's a lovely color, and I think it matches my shirt very nicely.
Oh, it does.
You obviously with the intent of me purchasing it.
You planned it out. You're just like
just a coincidence.
You plan your apparel shopping over and like, does this go well with my Switch?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, there we go. That looks nice.
Well,
that's different.
Okay, if it was the case for me, I have all gray Joy-Con, so everything I'd get is very dark colors. So.
So yeah, apologies if the green or the pink Joy-Con doesn't appease your senses.
This wasn't a news item really I put on here, but when I saw you set your Switch up on there on its stand, did you see that Nintendo unveiled a new charging stand for it's going to be available in July?
So, yeah, there's an official. I'm not sure what it's called, but it basically lets you have it in tabletop mode and have a portable charger plugged into it at the same time. Because of the charging port being on the bottom, and so yeah, it's just a little miniature unit just for power. It's good to have an official option for that, I feel.
Oh no, I do, and I know there's been other cheaper options like little stands that people have bought, which I've seen have been really reliable. But it's nice to get an all official one from here. So thank you. So no, I'm happy for that one.
Okay, so more news is coming. And this one is actually news to me. I didn't know about this before you sent the article my way. So I appreciate that. Bit of E3 news here, a bit of Smash Bros news here. What more can you know? It's apparently people of E3 are going to have to pre-register to play Smash Bros. In order for fans to play Smash Bros Switch on the E3 show, they're going to have to register. A week before the show begins, tickets will allow people to show up registered times and play the game in their allotted slots, much like their ticketing system at PAX. So this is, as far as I'm aware, this is a first for Nintendo.
Yeah, I believe this. I do believe this is a first from them, and I can understand because the past 2 years, E3 is now they allowed attendees to come in, like the public to come in. So
yes, that definitely factors in here, I imagine.
Oh no, and with me attending this year, that's going to be a bit more chaotic when it comes to it. So I like the idea where it's going to be able to curtail long wait times, but also and I read this, I listened to this through Game Explain when they mentioned about this is like the idea, but also when Smash Brothers for You came out, there wasn't much of a trouble as far as waiting. I mean, yes, you had to wait, but there wasn't so much where you're waiting almost all day to play this. But that was because, you're having one kiosk set open and you're having not just one person, you're having 4 people play each other. So that made it a little bit faster. So in this case, I think it's the opposite where it's just one person to a kiosk or not, but it's just, I don't know, I felt it was a little bit counterintuitive. But there are things where you can register to get for fun or for Fun Glory competitions. So whether you want to just play for fun or play with a madhouse of professional Smash players, that's up to you. The only question I got to figure out for this is whether or not this is also going to translate to press, because I don't know. That just depends to me. But I get the idea of it, but hopefully it's played out a little bit more. But thankfully, this is not done to any other games that are going to be on the show floor of Nintendo, which sort of kind of proves that we're not getting a very Disneyland-esque kind of thing, a booth central kind of like we had with Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. So, whatever the case, it doesn't matter. Game's going to be there. So,
yeah, it's true. And like in theory, like this is a good thing in the sense that, like, oh, I'll book a time slot, and then at that time I'll play the game instead of I'll wait in line for 2 hours and then I'll play the game. Like if it does cut out those 2 hours, that seems a cool system. But I guess the downside, although it's probably a realistic limitation anyway, is that you only get one time slot per person or something like that. Whereas if you were a crazy person, you could just keep queuing, even if you only got to play it like 2 or 3 sessions of an entire day. Well, we should see. So the fact that you are going to be on the show floor, you will be able to report that. Let us know what your experience is like. And obviously, I'm not sure how exciting it will be, but you'll have to mention on the show when you do register. And if you are able to get multiple slots or not, or if they interested you.
Oh no, I'm my day there around to kind of, because I'm in pre-planning mode at the moment. I was trying to think like if I was going to go to like Sony's press conference there, but they're doing a different thing. They're doing they're doing the Nintendo Direct route almost of like, this is what we're going to talk about in the games, but of course you get people in upward like, oh, these are the only 4 games they're going to talk about. Here's the thing, whether a company or not, when they announce things like what they're talking about, there's always going to be some surprises when they talk about some things. So it's pretty much a given. So, yeah, but this is a very interesting choice by Nintendo.
Oh, definitely. And we've got a fair bit more news. So we've got some release dates. The first up, and this is a re-release. The NES Classic is returning to store shelves in America. I'm not sure about Europe and the rest of the world, but Nintendo of America tweeted out that the NES Classic is returning. It's coming out on June 29th. So if you missed it the first time round, you get another chance at reasonable prices.
Good. Well, it's knowing that we see with the Super Nintendo Classic situation right now, I feel like, yeah, they provided a little bit more supply out there. I mean, it's nowhere near to like, what was it? I saw with an Amazon, like Amazon was reselling them, and thankfully it wasn't such a burden to find one and get on there. If you're just on there, it's just, thankfully bots don't take over and everything. But I've been seeing them more in store too, so this is good. If that's the case there, if you missed out the first time, get it. So although we do know the inevitable, well, whether Game Boy or N64 Classic is going to be announced, who knows? I just
if the pattern holds, it's going to be this holiday.
It could be. It could be. So I don't know if the pattern holds. And Nintendo did say that they were going to expect to be these are going to be expected to be available through the end of the year. So is that just pointing that after that that's it, done, discontinuing?
That's basically what their plan is till now, because they kind of put out the rough details for this at the beginning of the year, saying, "Oh yeah, we will be restocking the NES Classic again, and we're going to keep supplying the Super Nintendo Classic throughout the year." And so, yeah, as far as we know, both of these systems after this year won't be available. They may change their minds and may extend that again, but as far as we've been told, this year is what we've got for these systems.
I do wonder for the NES Classic, they actually changed up the cord length for this one, much like that they did with the Super Nintendo Classic, which is longer but still criminally short.
Yeah, my guess is it's the same because they've not said otherwise. I reckon they would make a thing about it if they made the cables a little bit longer.
Yeah, there is that.
We shall see, though. You never know. It might be something they would keep quiet on and just let people discover. And next up, another release date. Integrates has announced 2 games. We have Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is the first one. Not to be mistaken for the other Bloodstained game, the full Bloodstained game. This Curse of the Moon is a 2D NES retro-styled game by Integrates. And this was one of the stretch goals from the Bloodstained Kickstarter.
It just feels like so forever ago when that started too.
Yeah, like when this announced, I was like, what is this? And I had to get reminded it was one of those stretch goals.
Oh, no.
If we hit this amount of money, we'll make a little retro game as well.
Oh, when I first heard it announced, I thought like, oh, this is the game, but it has like a retro mode where it's like, oh, you can turn it on and off for the game. That was my first instinct, but then I realized, oh wait, that's one of the Kickstarter goals. Never mind.
Which is, and like I've watched the trailer for it. It actually looks pretty decent for what it is.
Oh no, yeah.
Like it's going to be one which lives and dies with how it plays, because there's a lot of games which look like this nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it sold me on that, the looks and the sounds. It feels like it's coming from that right place, and so yeah, one to watch out for. And it's not long now; it's actually coming out later this month, May 24th.
Oh wow, very close.
Yeah, it's good when you get a game announcement and it's followed up by the release shortly afterwards. Basically, I'm an impatient person, and I don't like to be kept waiting. So if I like something, I like the opportunity to get it. But we also Inti Creates weren't satisfied with just announcing one new 2D game. But there is a new Gunvolt game coming. So hold your breath. We have Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Adventure IX. I believe that's how that's pronounced.
Yeah,
because the I is lowercase and the X is capitalized. I want to stress here before anyone tells me I can't count. Maybe that is a number, but that's not how you do it. So I don't know.
11, maybe it could be. Whatever.
Well, it would be 9, right? Oh, maybe I can't count, but either way,
no, it's not. No, it's
going on there.
It's 9. Wow, I am dumb at count. I am dumb at my rules.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's IX, and that's why I. Anyway, regardless of the name, so let's be honest, they've all had very silly names. I've still not played the second game yet.
Get on that; it's good.
I need to get on it. I think I'm just gonna stop playing one. I'm gonna just stop at that boss rush and just jump into number 2.
Oh, you're still on that?
Well, yeah, I've not been like playing it daily or anything, but I've not progressed since then.
All right. Again, I mentioned before, best thing to do is just crank out all your abilities. That's it.
I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna jump to number 2.
Okay, just go on to YouTube.
You just this game now. Otherwise, I'm gonna be so far behind. Maybe I'll go back once I'm more skilled in Gunvolt, and it'll be a breeze.
Yeah,
but yeah,
this game.
So you play as I think I'm pretty sure I saw both Gunvolt and Copen being played in this. Although now I'm questioning if I did see Copen or not. I'm pretty sure he was in there. But yeah, I mean, it looks like Gunvolt basically. And so, quick bit of background: this game is a Switch exclusive. Whereas the previous game was released first on 3DS, and then they had Switch ports. Where this game is, a Switch exclusive, so it does look sharper, but it's basically the same style of game. But where I commented before on the dual pack, where there's a bit of mishmash between like some of the graphics are nice HD and sharp, and others aren't, and I think this game will handle that stuff a lot better because this is all built from the ground up. Yeah, it looks like it's a tricky one, really, and I might be underselling it a bit, but it looks like more Gunvolt. As in, if you like Gunvolt, you're gonna like this. I do like in the kind of the poster and the character art. I'm pretty sure we see like a mech, which we don't actually see in that trailer. So I'm wondering if that plays a part or not. That could be quite cool in this series.
Some of these characters, again, even though the stories are very nonsensical insanity to me, but I've watched video footage in this one, and much like in the second Gunvolt game, it definitely plays off a lot more than from what Copen's playstyle, which is fun as hell.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. However, we don't have a release date on that yet. That's just in development. So I imagine at least 2019 that's coming out. Although you never know. You never know with 2D projects, but yeah, my guess, just with that wording, it's not coming out this year.
Probably, maybe. Well, see.
So on to a game which isn't too far off. And build up on news that was announced. We've got some more details on Mario Tennis Aces and its pre-launch online tournament demo. So the event itself, the tournament demo, is going to be available from June 1st to June 3rd, or maybe 4th, depending on your time zone. And you're going to be able to play not all, but a bunch of different characters. You're going to be able to play as much as you want within that time window. And simply as a a participation trophy. If you play this and then you buy the real game, I assume this is exclusive. Either way, you unlock the traditional Mario outfit for Mario, opposed to his new snazzy tennis getup. So you get the overalls outfit. And if you're one of the top tiered players, you will be welcomed to an actual Mario Tennis Aces tournament, where will there be some even bigger prizes beyond
drawing a blank.
Mario outfits. I was trying to dungarees. I drew a blank on dungarees. What an evening.
Dungaree. Yeah, this will give me a bit of a chance to actually edge to wanting to try this out, because I have been ho-hum on probably how this game's going to turn out. Maybe that's because it stems from how the last Mario Tennis game, which was just a quick crank out on the Wii U and was not well received at all. So, but this one I have some hope for, but it's got to prove me. It's got to prove me a little more on there, but. And I think that's more in the main of its story, its adventure or story mode, which we did get a brief video on Nintendo's YouTube website about. So there is, I think that one's got more of a Mario World type of like progression around the areas, and then of course you'll face off with bosses. And one I saw was a PD Piranha, so using basically your tennis volleys to just hit him, hit him, or basically these different targets. So. Yeah, at least they're kind of going different, they're going for it right now to actually improve upon, which was just a very empty tennis game, what we saw on the Wii U.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I think it does show confidence that they're doing this in advance, so people will actually genuinely be able to play the game before they decide whether they actually want to buy it. It's a simple move, but it is a confident one in the sense that if you've made a game which is simply okay, and you let people play it for 3 days, if it doesn't really capture their attention, they're going to have their fill in that time, and they'll be like, oh, it was all right, I've done what I've needed to, or even, oh, it doesn't interest me. And so hopefully this is a sign that, because it's going to be available for everybody, what they're hoping is they're going to play it and actually come away going, oh, actually there's more to this than I was expecting. Let's buy the full thing. But yeah, so yeah, it's a simple one. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not too fussed about. In fact, I'd go the opposite way about the fact that the way you unlock the classic Mario outfit is by playing this tournament. I'll be doing that anyway, but I hope that's not the only way. It would be odd for people to later on buy this game and not be able to play as Mario, looking like just classic Mario. Even though it's there.
Even though it will be there, but
yeah, but no, you can't, because you weren't around before the game was out to play the free tournament. What? No. Let me have the thing. But yeah, no, free things are mostly good things. There's my hot take. And we've got one more news story, which is more of a casual story. Bit of casual news.
Pretty casual.
It's pretty casual news, I feel. Trip down history lane. Yuji Naka, creator of Sonic. And there's an interview here, but I'm not sure what the original source is. So the article I'm reading is from nintendosoup.com. And
I'll look for the source.
Yeah, I mean, they refer to
and the place that I went to the source is in Spanish, so it's from Nintendoros. But my Spanish is very bad since college, so I apologize for that.
That's okay. I know I've lost my place, but I know what the story is. So, coming out from an interview, creator of Sonic, Yuji Naka, the subject of him leaving Sega after the creation of Sonic the Hedgehog came up, and how he was disappointed that he didn't get a call from Nintendo, because he knew of other developers in like similar sort of positions in other companies having left their roles, and then soon after Nintendo sweeping in and giving them a job at Nintendo. And he was saying, despite like the strong Nintendo and Sega rivalry, he always looked up to Nintendo and was hoping that they would contact him. And he even goes into a story that he was checking out like the journey from where he was to Nintendo and drove up to the parking lot and got scared off by the security guard there. And he said, like, if he didn't get scared off, maybe he would have actually gone in and like inquired.
It was like, we had to find that security guard. I just realized you just lost an opportunity to get.
Yeah, I don't think the guard did anything. I just think Yuji Naka was just like spooked. He was like, "Oh, I don't know. I should be here. I should go."
Oh no, but this was kind of the part of the course when you saw in that age of like when Nintendo and Sega were going at it. Is that, I mean, if you read from Console Wars, Sega did approach, like Tom, then CEO of Sega of America, like Tom Kalinske, they approached the famous Howard Phillips, basically the go-to Nintendo guru at NOA. She was so like well known that even people and parents knew who this person was. I believe, yeah, like it was he had quite the reputation, and then Sega was trying to just poach. They were trying to poach him away from NOA, and he said no. He was close to it. I had to reread the article, whatever, but they were in talks to bring him over for Sega. So, but I don't know. What imagine what would happen if Yuji Naka did work for Nintendo, of the ideas that we would get from him. Would his time there probably working with 3D graphics, or probably early on with, say, like Mario 64 or whatnot? And because he left Sega early on, and then he eventually did come back to Sega to work with Sonic Team. And it makes me think, what would have happened in some weird world where he was briefly at Nintendo and then he came back to Sega, and who knows how 3D Sonic games would have progressed probably further on. So, because I don't know, that's just me just going and rimming off things like wish fulfillment, that type of things. It's just I don't know, it's fun to think about.
Oh, definitely. And like you could easily spend time thinking about in that time where he was not at Sega, if he had joined Nintendo, like also how that would have affected Sega during that period. Because that's what kind of on his return was kind of when they became their strongest, really, in that era. So yeah, all sorts of different implications.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that covers the news for this evening. But we did promise a super topic.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've already had a very generous show, but we do have the super topic to go through, and your generosity shouldn't go towards us. It should go towards Jonathan Cruz, who gave us the super topic this week. And although we're having a different format going forwards, this part will still be relevant in a different twist. But if you have any ideas for features and themes for the show, please do check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Nintendo Voice. If you support us for $1 a month or more, you can give us an idea to run with, as elaborate or as simple as you want, what you would like to hear from us. And that is what Jonathan Cruz has done. And his question to us is, who's the most relatable non-avatar character in all of Nintendo history? What makes him or her so relatable? Do you feel there's something specific about Nintendo could do to make them even more relatable?
So non-relatable, like most relatable non-avatar characters. So anyone that's not the protagonist. So ancillary characters or supporting characters probably out there.
That's right. I mean, I think this would be an interesting question enough if it was just characters without that qualifier. Like, use the most relatable main character, but that's not what we're talking about today. So don't mention any good ideas you have about those. Jonathan doesn't want to hear them. Non-playable Nintendo characters, which are most relatable. Anything jumps to mind, Harrison?
Well, I think one thing that kind of would jump is maybe, and this is I should have wrote this down a little more, is that you could do relatable to side characters in like Fire Emblem, or even characters in Earthbound, for instance, or the Mother series, for exactly. But it's hard to kind of realize what this is the case for me, because yeah, like a main character for me is probably somebody I relate to, because it's one like gives me the control. I mean, probably one person's easy answer in here would be Link. Why? Because the name itself connects is like the link between the game and the player. But
let's say you can't talk about him.
Yeah, can't.
He's off limits for to see this.
He is off limits for another
How
time.
many times must I say?
No,
So the next logical, so Zelda universe. So surely Tingle is the most relatable,
Tingle. Tingle. You're saying
non-playable character.
he's your relatable character or my relatable character?
I think everybody's relatable character. Can you top that? Is there a more relatable, non-playable Zelda character out there? See, there's no answers.
Maybe Skull Kid, to be exact. I mean, one who wanted acceptance, or one that was always at first loneliness and then got his own power and realized he couldn't control that own power. So that's one on there.
To be fair, I think I'm just thinking purely from Majora's Mask now. I'm looking up at that Scary Moon. Oh, you used to scare me as a kid, but now I think you're a very relatable face. I can see where you were coming from when you crashed down onto the earth and destroyed everybody. Oh, that was a bit dark.
Oh, it's man, this is one I really if I'm gonna say one, I become kind of a jerk sometimes. Well, I mean, I'm a nice guy, but I mean, one named Rivali, for instance, who's very conceited in ways as he does, or just like that's one option. But to me, it's hard to pick point for me. There's several side characters that I really like in Fire Emblem that I kind of just grow a little bit attachment to. Whatever it's like, Anna, for instance, a trickster and Baker, whatever. I mean, for me, like I just love her dialogue to me, where I feel like it's very snappy, and I like that type of thing when I talk out my life, like especially my own life or my day-to-day conversations. So there's that.
Yeah, you mentioned about Rivali, I think, and also from what we were talking about in the news earlier. And I do find I have to add the qualifier. The Nintendo news earlier. We won't talk about the news. Is if you think of Star Fox. So obviously you play as Star Fox himself, but the other cast, I feel it's the first time for a Nintendo game where you had the voice characters, so they had to have more of a personality. And so I think your side characters in Star Fox are going to be some strong contenders to relatable, depending on your own personality. Although I'm not sure who's relatable to Slippy. I'm sure there's some Slippy relatable fans out there.
I would say that because there could be times I could say I'd be relatable to Slippy, because there'd be times where I feel like I'm useless. So that's a wicked self burn on myself. So yeah, it's, but there's several out there that do to it with like Fire Emblem, but even it's like to me it really, I mean, I could probably even say an enemy or something like that, or I could probably be, for me it could be like the baby Metroid, for instance. I mean, there's no dialogue, but there's
relatable?
Yes, no, he's not playable.
No, is it relatable? That was the question.
Relatable, because, like, maybe relatable because some people say like, oh, I'm a very mama's boy when I was growing up and stuff. There's that too. So, but that
works.
That does so. But what about you? I'm curious. Let me pick apart your brain.
That's the problem. Like, I really want to like re-go through this question of playables. Like, just because I feel a lot of just Nintendo's great characters are actual, playable characters. I oddly started thinking about like some of the cast of Advance Wars, but even they are playable in that sense. You are those COs. And I was thinking like, I try to think of like things from like the Splatoon universe. But again, like most of those characters are in fact playable, and the ones which aren't are less characters.
And I did mention relatable non-playable. I think you can play them, but like non-avatar character that we're talking about. So I think, and I mentioned Anna as well. So it was like, I think it counts, but there's no it didn't say non-playable, so I think you're safe. But as non-avatar character, you do play with all those characters as a main character in Advance Wars. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it depends. Depends how you qualify that. Most relatable character. Again, like I feel like it's breaking the rules, but I want to mention Travis Touchdown as a relatable character in video games. Now, he's not a good character,
but he's a main character. But he's a main character, though.
Exactly. That's why I prefaced it. It's not allowed, but I couldn't let this go on without mentioning it. Just because, like, he's not a good role model, but I feel he's very relatable in that sense. He's a character who's bought essentially a lightsaber off eBay to like to get to the top of these charts essentially, and it's all like stuff within reach if you were in that universe. But you're right, that should be struck from the podcast. If it wasn't myself editing it, I would just replace. I should be replaced with just like some white noise.
White.
No one will know what's going on, or you could simply cut it. But yeah, I want to chuck in Travis Touchdown. He's a relatable guy. He's a bad guy, but
he's relatable in the sense that of his chaoticness and just knowing.
I feel if I need to save my progress in real life, then you know which room I need to head to.
But no, like, so you can't think of one that's a non-Avatar character, though.
So I think Pokemon is where I have to go, to get my answers to this, and so I feel like oddly, and it's really. It's annoying that I can't think of one in particular, but I'm thinking like back in like the original gen, Red and Blue, like you would bump into a bunch of characters who, because you kind of got invested in the world, you got invested in the characters as well, because it was so like focused around this one concept. Oh, we like everything for whatever reason gets revolved around, just Pokemon, opposed to like, oh, it's an actual world. There should be lots of other concerns and politics and other things going on, but everything's just focused around Pokemon, where all the shops, most of the houses in the game, and so there's a lot of relatable characters I feel there, and especially like when you get to like the gym leaders and the Elite Four and such, and they give a little bit more of their personality in addition to that. So I feel like just in terms of like a cast of characters, I feel like the Pokemon world is relatable because it is that blend of, oh, it's the real world, but it's got this weird twist where, for whatever reason, the whole world is just focused on this thing which seemingly only 10-year-olds are the primary target, especially 10-year-old boys.
Mm-hmm.
But no, not a single particular character, unless we count Mewtwo, but that only works from the canon of the first movie, which again I think it's struck from the record, can't be used.
There is that.
I feel we're drawing a blank here.
Yeah, this is a few one that it's
should we drag in some playables?
Okay.
Let's we have a couple here because I feel we've not done any strong enough answers here.
Yeah, this is one where it's like, to me, it's like, we're sorry, Jonathan, but this is one where it's like you're stretching to a point where we're just like, yeah. And I know as us Nintendo experts, we should probably know more about this right now. But
I never claimed to be a Nintendo expert.
I claim a lot, but that's just
okay.
Me. Oh well. Playables. Again, any type of character that, like I said, with Fire Emblem, I could easily say, like, for instance, Robin or even Corrin. I really feel like I can relate that myself because it's cheatable, because it's an Avatar character and I created my own image. But one that I like seeing that story unfold a lot more with them, even if it feels like it's soap opera trash sometimes, but that's for part of the points. Now, to answer the question, like, how could Nintendo make them more relatable? And I'm going to draw this back to my side characters, is that I don't think you'd kind of have to be relatable. I think what they do as far as a side character is enough to make them relatable. Now, more, I don't know what else you could do. I feel like I found my relatableness just from what they are.
Oh, definitely. And we've got Green Mobile on the chat. It's a little late, but maybe you can clarify. But yeah, like you were talking about the Avatar characters, and I think maybe I misunderstood the question. Maybe it is the distinction of the Avatar character is the customizable character, so they're not allowed because you can make it look like you. On Mr. Green Moblem on the chat, can you confirm it's an Avatar character, a customizable character, or just a playable character?
And as we wait, so
yeah, well, I feel very good about my Travis Touchdown idea now. You can't remember, so I feel we get to choose.
Yeah, we get to choose. Sorry, so that's us.
That's cool.
Overruled.
Overruled.
But that's what I got for mine. That's for me. So
Okay. All right. The rule was customizable characters are avatars, not playables. So we had a lot to choose from. My suggestion of Travis Touchdown wasn't as ludicrous as I first thought. So I'm happy.
Then my basically Fire Emblem characters were a little bit ludicrous. So I
definitely, yeah.
That's definitely ludicrous on my point. But anybody from I feel like for Ness, for myself, just because I liked exploring as a kid. I really did. And even since a Link to myself, I mean, yes, there could be an argument like, oh, it's an Avatar character, but yes, you can name him your own name character, but I feel like I'm going more from Breath of the Wild Link, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's one I feel like relatable to, as far as like you're trying to help out and against so much odds.
I was gonna say, I think in a weird way, and this is gonna sound odd, but I think Leon from Resi 4 may be quite relatable. Not that I particularly feel like I'm sort of action hero superstar, but just like because he does react like although he does fit that role, he also fits the role of the everyman. Like he's the guy who's questioning things, and he is surprised by things. I mean, and there's a certain bit of tongue in cheek, and like he is that like basically the one guy in the game who knows about zombies and isn't shocked by them the first time round, but nor are you as the player. And so I think having that balance can be quite good, where you've got a character who, for a story reason, is kind of on that same wavelength as yourself. And I think there's a bunch of good examples, but I think Leon fits that role well, where he makes Goose in serious situations to lighten the mood and such. Whereas I feel like if I was in that world and I had that like gear and stuff and skills are set to me, that's probably how I would act. And I think that's kind of the point. But you get characters like that, and like for that reason, like they are quite relatable. There's some good suggestions on the chat. We got illustrations going with 9-volt for me, obviously from WarioWare. I saw That's Awesome mentioned saying Kirby because they love to eat and also like destruction. Which I think Kirby is a very relatable character in that sense.
I could easily say Luigi because I feel like I played little like one up to my own brother. So,
and so yeah, I think that's going to do it for the super topic this week. So please do send in your feature ideas, your podcast ideas, and send them over to patreon.com/Nintendo Voice. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I've teased the last one or maybe 2 episodes, there's some big changes coming. Do look forward to them. Not just visuals and audios, but format changes too. All good stuff. And so check that out for the latest news. And if you fancy giving us support, it would be much appreciated. Also, a thank you for anyone and everybody who is watching live and on the live chat on youtube.com/Nintendo Voice. All very appreciated and make the show even more better. And what we do before we end the show, as tradition, for now at least, is we let you know where you can get hold of us and anything else we're up to. So, Harrison, how can the fine folks of the internet get hold of you?
The usual place, through Twitter. You can reach me there at H Milfeld, and if you want to become my friend on Switch, my friend code is posted on the top of my profile, or through any other options that you can find. So there you go.
Fantastic. And is anything you've been up to you'd like to share?
Nothing really much. Just trying to plan to get the show a little bit better. Hopefully actually have a better mic coming up soon. So there is that. And I just trying to much find time to play all the Switch games and even other games that are non-Nintendo platforms like my PS4, because it's just there's not enough hours in the days to actually do things that you like. So I have too many things I like.
I agree. It is hard to find the time.
Yeah. Let's just crank this out. Why don't? God, wow! I can't believe.
In my defense, it's a very lovely button. But beyond that, I mean, there's still. I've not built any more Labo kits since. I've got to do those. I am in the process of moving houses and such, so that stuff will probably wait. But the Switch is a very good system if you're moving around. It's perfect. If you want to get hold of me, though, the best place is Twitter. You can also find me on Instagram. I post not very often, but I probably will when you least expect. The name you need is Luvision, and the way you spell that is Leuvsion. Simple as that. And I don't have anything else to plug. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And this has been Nintendo Voice.
See you around, everybody.
Until next time.